My name is Rachel, and for the past 3 years, I've watched my beloved husband, James, slowly slip away from us. When we first learned he had stomach cancer, it was as if the ground had been ripped out from beneath me. James was only 40 years old, vibrant, successful in his career as an investment banker, and the proud father of our sweet 10-year-old son, Paul. We had built a beautiful life together, filled with dreams of future adventures, family vacations, and watching Paul grow up. We thought we had decades of happiness ahead of us, a future brimming with promise. But that diagnosis changed everything. It was a devastating blow, a cruel twist of fate that left us reeling, trying to make sense of a world turned upside down. The only small comfort in this nightmare was that James's successful career provided us with the means to seek the best medical care available. We spared no expense, traveling across the country to consult with top specialists, exploring cutting-edge therapies, and pursuing every possible avenue to fight the disease. No cost was too high if it meant even a sliver of hope. But as the months turned into years, the harsh reality settled in. The treatments, as advanced as they were, could only extend his time with us. They couldn't offer a cure. Each day brought a mix of hope and heartache as we clung to the moments we had left, knowing they were slipping away. Through this grueling journey, James's parents, Lauren and Brian, were our anchors. Living just 15 minutes away, they stepped in without hesitation, offering their support in ways that made all the difference. "Rachel, we'll pick Paul up from school today," Lauren would say gently on days when James's treatments left us drained. "Don't worry about dinner either. I've made extra lasagna for you all." Their kindness was a lifeline, a reminder that we weren't facing this alone. They were there for the small moments, helping with homework, driving Paul to soccer practice, and the big ones, sitting with us in hospital waiting rooms, their presence a quiet source of strength. At night, Paul would sometimes tug at my sleeve as I tucked him into bed, his young eyes filled with a heart-wrenching mix of worry and hope. "Mom, when is Dad going to get better?" he'd ask, his voice trembling with the weight of a question no child should have to ask. I never knew how to answer. How do you tell a 10-year-old that his father is dying? So I would stroke his hair, kiss his forehead, and whisper, "The doctors are doing their very best, sweetie." It was all I could manage, a fragile attempt to shield him from the truth while grappling with my own grief. Those moments were a stark reminder of the delicate balance I was trying to maintain, being strong for Paul while my own heart was breaking. In stark contrast, my own parents, Christina and Jacob, were a different story. They lived just as close as James's parents, a mere 15-minute drive, but it often felt like they were worlds away. I remember one particularly desperate day when James had a severe reaction to his chemotherapy and Lauren had her own doctor's appointment. I called my mom, hoping for a small act of support. "Mom, can you pick up Paul from school today? James isn't doing well and I'm overwhelmed," I pleaded. Her response was a quick dismissal. "Oh, Rachel, I'm so sorry, but we promised to help your sister, Jacqueline, with apartment hunting today. You know how stressed she gets." It was always about Jacqueline. That's how it had been my entire life. Growing up, I was perpetually in my sister's shadow. When I was 7, my parents missed my school play because Jacqueline had a minor cold. At my high school graduation, they left right after the ceremony to attend Jacqueline's dance recital, even though she was just part of the ensemble, not the star. Over the years, I grew accustomed to being second, to having my milestones overshadowed by my sister's needs. James became my true family, and his parents, Lauren and Brian, treated me with the warmth and care I'd always longed for from my own. They welcomed me as their daughter, filling a void I hadn't realized was so deep until they showed me what family could truly mean. Last month, when James's health took a sharp decline, I braced myself for the inevitable. Surrounded by those who truly cared, Lauren, Brian, and Paul, I prepared to say goodbye to the love of my life. The night James passed away, I sat by his side, holding his hand as his breathing grew slower, more labored. The hospice nurse had warned me it wouldn't be long. "Rachel," he whispered, his voice faint but filled with love, "take care of Paul. You're the strongest person I know." Those were his final words, a testament to his faith in me, a charge to carry on for our son. I sat there for hours, even after his hand grew cold, unable to let go of the man who had been my partner, my rock, for 13 years. Lauren and Brian arrived at the hospital within an hour of my call, their faces etched with the same grief I felt. "We're here, sweetheart," Lauren said, wrapping me in a warm embrace. "We'll always be here." Their presence was a balm to my shattered heart. That night, I sent a simple message to my mom: "James passed away tonight." An hour later, her response came, 2 cold words: "That's terrible." No phone call, no questions about how Paul or I were coping, no offer to come over and help. Just a curt text that felt like a slap in the face. I was too numb to care, my focus consumed by the funeral arrangements, comforting Paul, and trying to hold together the pieces of our broken life. The days following James's death were a blur of sorrow and responsibility. Planning the funeral, signing endless paperwork, and trying to explain to Paul that his dad wasn't coming home, it was overwhelming. Lauren and Brian were there every step of the way, making phone calls when my voice failed me, sitting with Paul when I couldn't find the words to answer his questions. I felt like I was drowning under the weight of it all. The funeral home needed decisions about the service, relatives were calling for directions, and I still had to pick up a suit for Paul to wear. Sleep was a distant memory. I hadn't managed more than 3 hours at a time since James passed. One afternoon, as we sat at the kitchen table surrounded by sympathy cards, I turned to Lauren. "I need to ask my parents to watch Paul," I said, exhaustion seeping into my voice. "You and Brian are already doing so much." I drove Paul to my parents' house, rehearsing what I'd say, hoping for a moment of compassion. But when my mom opened the door, she was already wearing her jacket, purse in hand, looking ready to leave. "Rachel, this isn't a good time," she said, not even inviting us inside. "We're just heading out." I pleaded, "Mom, please, it's only for a few hours. I need to finalize everything for the funeral." My dad appeared beside her, adding, "We've had these plans for weeks. We can't cancel now." Before I could argue, they stepped outside, locked the door, and drove off, leaving Paul and me standing on the porch, hurt and confused. Desperate, I called my friend Isabella, who immediately agreed to watch Paul. After dropping him off, I couldn't resist driving past my parents' house on my way home. Their lights were on, and Jacqueline's red Mazda was parked in the driveway. "So that's their big plan?" I muttered, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. They weren't busy with some urgent commitment. They were just choosing to spend time with Jacqueline instead of helping me, yet again. The sting of their rejection was sharp, a painful echo of a lifetime of being overlooked. I sent a message to our family WhatsApp group. "James's funeral is at 10 a.m. on Saturday at Greenwood Chapel. There will be a small reception afterward." I watched as red receipts appeared next to my parents' and Jacqueline's names. No one replied. The night before the funeral, my anxiety got the better of me, and I called my mom directly. "Mom, you saw my message about the funeral tomorrow, right? It starts at 10 o'clock. There was a brief pause before she responded, "Oh, Rachel, I'm sorry, but we can't come." Jacqueline made a lunch reservation at Elio's to celebrate her promotion. "It's at noon, and we already said we'd be there." I nearly dropped the phone. "Mom, this is James's funeral," I said, my voice trembling. "James, the man who helped pay to fix your roof when it caved in 4 years ago. The man who's been part of our family for over 11 years. Her reply was cold, detached. "That was a long time ago, Rachel. We need to focus on the living, not the dead. Jacqueline needs our support right now." Before I could respond, she hung up, fueled by anger and disbelief. I called Jacqueline. "Hey," she answered, her tone dripping with annoyance, as if I was interrupting something trivial. "Jacqueline, Mom told me you're having a party tomorrow at the same time as James's funeral. Can't you move it or at least delay it so they can come to the service first?" Her response was a laugh, sharp and dismissive. "No way. I can't change the reservation now. Everyone's already confirmed, and this promotion is a big deal. It's not like I can just move a funeral or whatever." My voice rose, incredulous. "A funeral or whatever? Jacqueline, my husband is dead. James, the man who paid for your entire college education." She didn't miss a beat. That was a long time ago. Look, my promotion is more important than some funeral. People die every day." Then she hung up. I stood in my kitchen, gripping the phone, utterly shocked. Moments later, a text from my mom buzzed through. "Stop pressuring your sister. Her celebration is more important than a funeral. She's worked hard for this promotion." I couldn't believe the audacity, the utter disregard for my grief, for James's memory, for Paul's loss. It was as if our pain meant nothing compared to Jacqueline's moment in the spotlight. The day of James's funeral dawned sunny and bright, a cruel contrast to the darkness in my heart. The service was simple and heartfelt, exactly as James would have wanted. He was never one for grand gestures or showy displays. The small chapel was filled with people who truly loved him, friends, neighbors, coworkers, and, most importantly, his family. During the eulogy, I spoke of James's kindness, his generosity, and his unwavering love for Paul. I shared stories of his quiet strength, the way he'd make Paul laugh with silly dad jokes, and how he'd always put our family first. Paul sat between Lauren and Brian, holding their hands, his small frame trembling as he cried quietly. After the service, people approached me with kind words and offers of support. A few noticed the absence of my parents. "I was surprised not to see your folks," one of James's old college friends said gently. "Are they not well?" I forced a tight smile. "They had something else planned," I replied, my voice clipped, unwilling to delve into the painful truth. Lauren, ever perceptive, noticed my discomfort and smoothly changed the subject, steering the conversation to happier memories of James. Her kindness was a reminder of the family I'd found in her and Brian, a family that showed up when it mattered most. That night, after the guests had left, I sat alone in the living room, surrounded by sympathy cards and wilting flower bouquets. The house felt unbearably quiet without James, the silence a painful reminder of his absence. My phone buzzed with a text from Jacqueline. "Hope the funeral went okay." Mom posted pictures from my party. I got promoted to senior account executive. No mention of James, no hint of sympathy, just a self-absorbed message filled with smiley faces and celebration emojis. I didn't respond. I turned off my phone and went upstairs to check on Paul. He was fast asleep, clutching the teddy bear James had given him for his last birthday. I climbed into bed beside him, finding solace in the soft rhythm of his breathing. A week later, I received a call from James's lawyer, Mr. Eric. "Mrs. Turner," he said kindly, "it's time to go over James's will." He made very careful plans. "Would tomorrow afternoon work for you?" I agreed and invited Lauren and Brian to join us, knowing James had included them in his wishes. The next day, Mr. Eric arrived promptly at 3 p.m., his leather briefcase in hand and a serious but warm expression on his face. When he saw Paul, he smiled. "Your father talked about you all the time," he told Paul, gently shaking his small hand. "He was so proud of you." We gathered in the living room, me, Paul, Lauren, and Brian, ready for the reading, expecting a straightforward process. James and I had discussed his wishes many times, so I thought I knew what to expect. But just as Mr. Eric was about to begin, the doorbell rang. "Are you expecting someone else?" Lauren asked, her brow furrowed in confusion. "No," I said, equally puzzled, and went to answer the door. My heart sank when I saw who stood on the porch. My parents and Jacqueline, their faces adorned with fake sadness. I nearly slammed the door shut. "What are you doing here?" I asked sharply. My mother tried to peek inside. "We heard about the will reading. James wasn't a stranger to us. We have a right to be here." I was stunned. "A right?" I repeated. "You didn't come to his funeral, but now you think you have a right to be here?" My father cleared his throat. "Now, Rachel, let's not bring up the past. We're just here to support you." I laughed bitterly. "Support me? That's a good one." Before I could stop them, my mother pushed past me into the house, followed by my father and Jacqueline. "We're family," she said firmly, as if that justified everything. We returned to the living room, where Lauren and Brian's faces darkened at the sight of my parents and sister. "What are they doing here?" Brian whispered, his voice tense. "I have no idea," I replied, trying to keep my composure. "But I'm not going to cause a scene in front of Paul." Mr. Eric, ever professional, raised an eyebrow but said, "Shall we begin the reading of the will?" My parents and Jacqueline sat on the couch across from Lauren and Brian, with Paul beside me in a small armchair. The tension in the room was palpable, thick enough to cut through. Mr. Eric began, his voice steady and formal. "I, James Brandon Turner, being of sound mind, declare this to be my last will and testament." James had planned everything meticulously. To his parents, he left $300,000 to ensure a comfortable retirement and to thank them for their unwavering support during his illness. "We never expected this," Lauren said softly, her voice breaking as Brian squeezed her hand, both overcome with emotion. Then came the main part. To me, James left our house, 2 city apartments I didn't even know he owned, and $500,000 in savings. "These apartments bring in substantial rental income," Mr. Eric explained. "James purchased them as investments 4 years ago." I sat there stunned. James had planned so carefully to secure a future for Paul and me, even knowing he wouldn't be here to see it. As Mr. Eric continued, I noticed my mother's demeanor shift. Her feigned sympathy gave way to keen interest, and Jacqueline sat up straighter, her eyes locked on the lawyer. When the reading concluded, my mom clapped her hands, startling everyone. "Well, this is wonderful news, isn't it, Rachel? You're quite well off now." The room fell silent. Lauren and Brian stared at her, horrified. Oblivious to the mood, my mom continued, with 2 apartments and all that money, you can help the family. Jacqueline's been struggling with rent, haven't you, dear?" Jacqueline nodded eagerly. "Yeah, it's really expensive these days, and you've got 2 apartments just sitting there." My father chimed in, as if it were the most reasonable request in the world. "You should give one of those apartments to Jacqueline." "What do you need 2 for anyway?" I stood up slowly, my fists clenched, my voice trembling with rage. "Are you serious? You skipped James's funeral for a party. You ignored me and Paul for a week. And now you show up, uninvited, to his will reading just to ask for his property." My father's tone was patronizing. "Now, Rachel, there's no reason to be selfish. You're alone now, but you've got all this money. You should share it." I couldn't believe their audacity. "Selfish," I repeated, my voice rising. "I'm not alone. I have Paul, and everything James left is for his future. Every single penny will be used to give him the best education, the best opportunities in life, everything James can't give him anymore because he's gone." I looked at my parents and Jacqueline, their faces a mix of surprise and something else, something that looked almost like jealousy. My mother snapped, "You're being ridiculous. Jacqueline needs help now, not some child who won't even go to college for years." Brian interjected, his voice sharp. "Some child? That's your grandson, and his father just died." My mother's face flushed with anger. "Don't you dare tell me how to treat my own grandson. We've been in this family longer than you." Lauren's response was icy. "And yet you've shown no interest in being part of it. We've been here every single day, helping Rachel and Paul, while you ignored them." I'd had enough. "That's enough," I said, raising my voice. "Paul, can you go upstairs to your room for a little while? Take Mr. Eric and show him your model airplanes." Mr. Eric, grateful for the escape, smiled warmly. "I'd love to see your collection, young man," he said, taking Paul's hand. Once they were out of earshot, I turned to my parents and sister, no longer holding back. "How dare you walk into my house, just days after James's funeral, a funeral you didn't even care to attend, and ask for his money? James worked hard his entire life to provide for me and Paul. He fought cancer for 3 years, and not once did you offer to help. You couldn't even watch Paul for a few hours." My father tried to interrupt. "That's not fair," I cut him off. "No, what's not fair is James spending thousands to fix your roof when it collapsed during that storm 4 years ago. What's not fair is us paying for Jacqueline's entire college education when you said you couldn't afford it. And now you think you deserve something." I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "Let me make this crystal clear. I will not give you any of James's money or property. Not now, not ever. Every penny will be used for Paul, just as James wanted. That's final." My mother's face twisted in anger. "You ungrateful brat. After everything we've done for you." I stared at her, incredulous. What exactly have you done for me, Mom? Name one thing, one real act of love or support. She opened her mouth, then closed it, unable to respond. Exactly, I said quietly. I think it's time for all of you to leave. The door slammed shut behind them, and I collapsed onto the couch, emotionally drained. Brian placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. You did the right thing, he said firmly. Did I? I asked, doubt creeping in. They're still my parents. Jacqueline is still my sister. Lauren sat beside me, taking my hand. Being related by blood doesn't make someone family. Love makes a family. Being there during the hard times makes a family. That night, after Lauren and Brian had gone home and Paul was asleep, I sat at my computer. A notification caught my eye. My mother had tagged me in a social media post. It read, heartbroken that my eldest daughter has become so greedy and selfish after her husband's death. She refuses to help her struggling sister, even though she now owns 2 city apartments and has plenty of money. Money has changed her. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. The comments from relatives and family friends poured in, people who had no idea what had happened. Don't let Rachel get away with this. Family should always help family. Poor Jacqueline, always struggling while Rachel has everything handed to her. Anger surged through me like never before. My mother was trying to shame me publicly to pressure me into giving them James's money. If she wanted to air our family's private matters in public, then I was going to share the truth. I began typing, my fingers flying across the keyboard. I've stayed silent for a long time, but since my mother has made this public, I feel the need to respond. 4 days ago, I buried my husband, James, who died after a 3-year battle with stomach cancer. My parents and sister did not attend his funeral. Why? Because my sister scheduled a party to celebrate her job promotion on the same day, and they thought that was more important. For those who don't know, James helped my parents many times. He paid for major repairs to their home and covered Jacqueline's entire college education. But when he was sick and I asked them to help, even just to watch our son for a few hours, they were always too busy. Yesterday, they showed up uninvited to the reading of James's will. When they learned he'd left money and property to me and our son, they immediately demanded I give one of our rental homes to Jacqueline, saying, and I quote, "She needs it more than some child." That child is their 10-year-old grandson, a little boy who just lost his father. I'm not sharing this to hurt anyone. I'm sharing it because I'm tired of being painted as the villain in a story where I've only ever tried to be a good daughter, sister, wife, and mother. James's money will be used exactly as he intended for our son's education and future. That's it. I hope this clears up the lies. I attached screenshots. One of my mom's message claiming Jacqueline's party was more important than James's funeral, others showing their refusals to help during his illness. I hesitated for a moment, then clicked post. Within minutes, the comments on my mother's post shifted dramatically. Christina, is this true? You skipped your son-in-law's funeral for a party. I can't believe you expect Rachel to give away property meant for her son. Those messages are shocking. How could you say a party is more important than a funeral? Calls and messages from relatives and friends flooded in, many expressing shock and support. My mom tried to claim I was lying, but the screenshots spoke for themselves. Eventually, she deleted her post, but the truth was out. The next morning, my phone was flooded with missed calls from my parents and Jacqueline. I didn't listen to their voicemails. I blocked their numbers, unwilling to hear their excuses. Over the next few weeks, they tried to reach me through emails, mutual friends, even uninvited visits to our house. Each time, they mixed pleas for forgiveness with requests for money. I stood firm. They were no longer part of our lives. They're never going to change, are they? I asked Lauren one afternoon as we watched Paul play in the backyard. People don't change easily, she replied gently. Not deep down. I sighed. It's strange. I used to think I needed their love and approval. I spent my whole life trying to earn it. Lauren finished my thought. But now you know your own worth, and you know Paul deserves better than to go through what you did. 7 months after James's death, life began to find a new rhythm. Lauren and Brian remained a constant presence, joining us for Friday dinners and helping with Paul's school events. I started managing the rental properties James had left behind, and to my surprise, I found I enjoyed the work. The apartments, located in the bustling city center, were excellent investments, bringing in steady income that I added to Paul's savings. I also invested some of the money in shares of companies James had always believed in, and it felt empowering to see those investments grow, ensuring a secure future for Paul. As for my parents and Jacqueline, I occasionally heard updates through other family members. They were struggling financially, Jacqueline had lost her job, and my parents were grappling with the costs of retirement. Whenever someone brought it up, they'd hint that I could help. My response was always the same. I'm sorry they're struggling, but my responsibility is to my son. Some called me cold, unforgiving. Maybe I was. But when I looked at Paul, growing stronger, smiling more, surrounded by people who truly loved him, I knew I'd made the right choice. One night, as I tucked Paul into bed, he asked a question that caught me off guard. "Mom, do you ever miss Grandma Christina and Grandpa Jacob?" I paused, choosing my words carefully to be honest without hurting him. "I miss the kind of relationship I wished we had," I said softly, "but not the one we actually had." He nodded, his young face showing a wisdom beyond his years. "I'm glad we have Grandma Lauren and Grandpa Brian," he said. "Me too, buddy," I replied, hugging him tightly. "Me too." Some people will never understand why I cut ties with the family I was born into. They've never felt the weight of constant letdowns, the sting of unfairness, the painful truth that some people can't put others first. But I understood, and more importantly, I had broken that cycle. Paul would grow up knowing he is loved, valued, and supported. He would be surrounded by people who showed their love through actions, not just words, people who were there when it mattered most, who asked for nothing in return. That was the legacy James left us, and it's the promise I'll keep for our son every single day. Please feel free to comment below if you liked this. Remember to like and subscribers for more.